We'll call to order the City of Douglasville's legislative work session for today, which is August the 1st, and our invocation will be done by the esteemed Pastor James Harper of First Presbyterian Church of Douglasville. After that, we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by the Mayor Pro Tem. I know you always look at me when I say prestigious, but you know, that's what it is. You just had a birthday. Happy belated birthday, Pastor. If you would please stand for the invocation and then the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Lord, we thank you for this time together. We thank you for the opportunity to live in this city, in this county, and to do your work here. We remember the words of the prophet Jeremiah, who calls us to seek the flourishing of those around us and for the places you've called us, Lord. We desire the flourishing of the city and this county. I pray that you give these leaders the wisdom to do that. We thank you for those who have worked hard to cause a flourishing of this county in the past, and we are grateful for Nick Banks and the contribution he made to this community. We are grateful for all who serve in this community. We particularly pray for those who serve in public safety and pray that you would watch over them. And may we be found doing your will and doing your good in this place. We pray these things in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem and Pastor Harper. We appreciate you. Hope you had a wonderful birthday. Thank you so much for coming again. This is a special evening of our announcements and presentations. We will do a presentation from myself, a proclamation, and a key to the city in honor of Mr. Jackson Hardy, as we all know him, Nick Banks. We have so many prestigious people in the audience. I think it's a Superior Court judge, used to be Judge. You're hiding, I see you, and Colonel Terry. Oh my goodness. There's just so many people here. We're so excited to have the Banks family especially, and our DDA, Mr. Connolly, just lots and lots of people here. So we're just excited to have you all. But I will read this proclamation and then we'll present the key to the city to Mrs. Banks. From the Office of the Mayor, in honor of Mr. Jackson Hardy Nick Banks, November 27th, 1939 through June 20th, 2019. Whereas Mr. Jackson Hardy Nick Banks was a devoted husband, father, friend, and public servant in the Douglasville community for many, many years. And whereas Mr. Banks was a lifelong resident of Douglasville and was married to his high school sweetheart, Patsy Lynch, for 56 years. He graduated from Douglas County High School, go Tigers, in 1958 and earned an AB degree from Mercer University in 1962, and an LLB from Woodrow Wilson College of Law in 1967. And whereas Nick served on the Douglasville City Council from 1966 until 1970 and took over the city clerk position thereafter. In 1976, he became the city manager and held the position until 1992. Did you hear that, city manager? That's a long time. He finished his career with the city in 1995 when he retired as a city comptroller. And whereas Mr. Banks served in other ways as well, he served on the board of directors of Arlington School in Fairburn, Georgia from 1980 to 1984. He also served as vice chairman of the Douglasville Downtown Development Authority in 1996. And whereas the city of Douglasville has lost a special friend, an advocate, and a valued citizen. Now, therefore, I, Rochelle Robinson, Mayor of the City of Douglasville, and on behalf of the Douglasville City Council and the citizens of the city, do hereby recognize Mr. Jackson Hardy Nick Banks' esteemed service and contributions to the City of Douglasville and give thanks for a life well lived, so proclaimed this first day of August 2019. Let us please give Mr. Banks a hand for his service, his family. So, of course, we know that his father, Mr. Banks himself, and his son, actually, Charlie Banks, Mr. Charles Banks, I'm sorry for calling you Charlie, who he and I served on the council together, a family just continued to give for many, many years, 3 and 4 generations of service. And his personality and his reach is across the community, and that's why we have these esteemed guests here this evening. And so I also have a key that I wanted to present to the Banks family. It says, presented to the Banks family in honor of Mr. Jackson Hardy Nick Banks for service on the Douglasville City Council from 1966 until 1970, and dedicated city manager from 1976 to 1992 by myself. And so I would ask, please, if all of the guests would come forward, and the council will come with you, and we'll take pictures and present this key and this proclamation to the Banks family and friends.
Tight as you can get, sir. Come on in as tight as you can get. We're going to clump all up in the middle if we can. We'll get everybody in there. Okay, let's see. Oh, we can get in there. Yes, ma'am. Got them all in there. All right, everybody hold some big smiles. We're going to take a few, okay? Let me try one more to make sure I got everybody. This is well over. One more big smile for me. That's everybody. Excellent. Thank you all.
We had to catch up a little bit. That was an old council member, former council member for 16 years, Mr. Green. That's a long time to be on the council. Asked him if he wanted to come back. He said no. All right, we'll go on with our announcements before we start with the council agenda. I would like to welcome you to the Douglasville City Council Legislative Work Session. This is a work session where agenda items are presented for discussion and no action will be taken this evening. We will take action on these items on Monday, August the 5th at 6 p.m. If the business you're here for is not listed as an agenda item, there will be ample time under the agenda item comments from citizens and delegates section for you to discuss your business. There are just a few protocol issues I'd like to bring to your attention. I would ask that you keep your comments and presentations on a professional level, dealing with the facts that are important for this governing body to make our decisions. We will not accept comments that are considered by the chair to be of a personal attack on any individual or group of individuals. You receive a warning from the chair if you deviate from that requirement. A second deviation will result in a request for you to leave the premises this evening. Only one person speaking at a time. Please do not applaud or react to speakers or speak from the audience or cheer or be disruptive in any way. We'll remind you that we're only required to accept public comments during the required public hearings for zoning matters. If you have a cell phone, iPad, all of those electronic devices, we'll ask that you'll put those in silent mode, please, or turn those off until the meeting is over so they will not be disruptive. We will handle the agenda items as following. The committee chairperson will read the agenda item, then the person representing that agenda item or applicant will make his or her presentation, and possibly council members will ask questions for clarity or just to receive more information for us to be able to make our decisions. After that, the committee chairperson will ask for comments or statements from the audience. There is a maximum of 30 minutes for citizens to make comments in favor and 30 minutes for those in opposition to that item. Each person has 5 minutes. When you come to the podium, please give your name and address for the record. And then you can proceed with the 5 minutes that you have as you speak to that item if you are in favor or against. It's not a question and answer period or debate format. We're just here really to receive information as it relates to those items. Other than that, if you do not want to speak on an item that's on the agenda and you just want to bring something generally to the council, we ask during the comments from citizens and delegates, we welcome you to come to the podium, give your name and address for the record, and then you have 5 minutes to present whatever you like to talk to us about. So those are the rules for our meeting this evening, and now we'll move on with the printed agenda. Oh, I apologize. If you wanted to talk, there should have been a form to fill out, and that form you would give to my city clerk, Ms. Vicki Acker, to my right, and you'll have that for the record. So now we'll move on with the agenda that was printed out on the table, and our first committee is Public Safety Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
Yes, ma'am, Mayor. I have a couple of items. Item A is authorize the mayor to sign an equitable sharing agreement and certification with the United States Department of Justice for the sharing of fortified assets. Davidson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. J.R.
Good evening.
Davidson, 2083 Fairburn Road. This is our annual report we do to the Department of Justice on the amount of equitable sharing funds that we received and spent in our prior fiscal year. We received $45,591 and we spent $49,396. Our fund remaining balance is $322,190.
Any questions from the council? Madam Mayor?
No, sir. Doing a great job.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to put this on a consent agenda for Monday, if council pleasure.
Any opposition?
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item B. Adopt an ordinance to enact section 54-14 of the Offense and Miscellaneous Provisions Ordinance of the Code of the City of Douglasville to prohibit certain acts in conjunction with drug-related objects. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Littlefield.
Thank you, sir. This is a matter we discussed in committees a week or two ago. This is a request from the municipal court judge. It mirrors the state law on offenses related to drug-related objects. It gives him a chance to handle those cases in a way without giving offenders a state conviction. They can have an ordinance conviction instead, and this is what he's asked for.
Council members, do you have any,
Mr. Chair,
yes, sir.
address my question to council. I was looking over the state version of this law, and I was concerned about the way it's written. Obviously, there's nothing we can do about the state version, and I guess my understanding is we're aligning with that. But the way it's written in a number of cases where, like, it talks about drug paraphernalia, some of it may be overlapping with paraphernalia, if you want to call it that, that's legitimate. I mean, I know people who have vaping sticks that are used with tobacco. But what prevents somebody from getting in trouble who has a vaping stick, let's say, that for a legitimate purpose, that would come under this law? Is there potential for misinterpretation?
I don't think so, because this is never going to be written as a citation. It's always just going to be a sentencing alternative.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other council members? Thank you, Ms. Littlefield. I'd like to put this on the agenda for Monday so we can vote on it, so we can get a little more information, okay? Thank you. That's all I have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Community and Economic Development Committee. That's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a few items. First is to authorize the mayor to sign an agreement with the Douglasville Convention and Visitors Bureau, Incorporated, for tourism services and expenditure of a specified portion of the city's tourism tax proceeds. Welcome.
Good evening, Samantha Rosado, 6695 Church Street. This is a routine agreement between the city and the Convention and Visitors Bureau outlining how to appropriately allocate our hotel motel funds. This is the second year for the agreement and is effective in the current budget year.
Pretty succinct. Any comments or questions from mayor and council? Doesn't sound like it.
The only comment I would make is that, Samantha, you're doing a wonderful job, and this year with Hydrangea Festival, especially when you have the chalk station and other activities, I think it worked really well. So thank you for all of your work that you did with the committee to make that event successful at the high school. It's a different venue, so I know it posed other challenges, but you did a wonderful job with the DJ. Everything was really great.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. If there's no objections, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. Next item is to authorize the mayor to sign a lease agreement with the Douglasville Convention and Conference Center Authority for the City Hall's use of City Hall Annex, which is also known as the Old Conference Center.
It is. Good evening. Jennifer Johnson, 6700 Church Street. Yes, as you said, this is a lease agreement between the City of Douglasville and the Douglasville Convention and Conference Center Authority. As you know, community development is housed in that building, and the lease agreement is for 1 year, and it is between the city and the Conference Center Authority, and the rental is $3,000.
And there's actually another lease for the Hair Barn that we don't have on here because the amount is small enough that it falls within the city manager's authority.
That is correct.
All right, Madam Mayor, any questions? Council members?
I was going to ask about the hair barn, but you answered it.
I read your mind.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Then if there's no objections, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday as well. And finally, I have an item to authorize the mayor to sign a service agreement with the Cultural Arts Council of Douglasville, Douglas County, Incorporated, for cultural arts services.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street. This is a routine agreement between the city and the CAC for proceeds given to the CAC for their cultural arts services.
Another thing we do every year as well. So any comments or questions from mayor and council? Madam Mayor.
I did have a brief question. Assistant City Manager, what are we doing with the Jones Wynn building? I know we had spoken about having that deeded to the CAC after we advertise, or could you give us just a brief synopsis of where we are in that process? And that's part of our contributions to the CAC. I know that they had recommended or wanted to have more in their agreement that they typically would have financially, and so we were trying to remedy their ask with something else as far as more than just a
Under the
resource.
next committee.
Oh, okay.
Cover that under the next committee.
Never mind. I see it in a few minutes.
All right. Any comments or questions on this?
I do have a question, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you. Refresh my memory as to the amount. Is this the same budgeted amount as we had in 2018 that we'd stayed with that same amount? Is that correct?
Yes, sir. The total is a little under 50,000. It's the same amount. The entire amount will come from general fund, but it's the same amount.
So nothing has changed as far as this part of our agreement with CAC?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all that I had. Thank you.
I think,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, yeah, we had some discussion, I think, with the executive director of the CAC about possibly bumping that number because she had asked that she could increase the relationship a little bit. She had talked about having some additional services and additional events that they would be willing to sponsor. Have you talked to her about any of those additional events?
Yes, Councilman, I did speak with Ms. Emily Leitner. She said as the year begins, the fiscal year begins, she will come to mayor and council with those events that she is seeking more funding for, so she can sit down with you all and have a discussion regarding the events that she is proposing.
Would it be more sensible to look at amending the budget at that time, or would it be rather than amending the budget this time while we're deciding on it at this point?
It would be staff recommendation to amend the budget when she comes along and gives you the information for the new programs that she is proposing.
Okay.
I would assume, if I may, I would assume that not knowing what those programs may cost on an individual basis, then we would need to identify those amounts and then consider them as budget amendments one at a time as they come forward. And of course, the next, as Mayor Pro Tem has mentioned, the next committee will address some other potential assets for them also. Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? All right, we'll take that up on Monday. That's all we have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on now to Planning and Development Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have several items tonight under Planning and Development. First item A is refer to the Planning Commission a proposal to rezone city-owned property at 8644 Campbellton Street, currently zoned public, semi-public PSP district, to limit principal uses on the lot to be grandfathered use of museum or art gallery, nonprofit. Is there anyone here to address or speak to that specifically? Thank you.
I'll talk with you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Whitfield.
This is the John Wynn Building. We discussed in committee that we should zone it to its current use before offering it for sale.
So basically, this ties into our previous committee as to the package that we were hoping to present to the CAC. In preparation for that potential event, we are proposing to rezone that property to its proper use, present use, before doing so. Any question or comment?
And Mr. Chairman, the comment I wanted to make was this was in reference to the last item that I was referring to was the Wynn Building, and deeding that to, or having an opportunity to have the CAC have that as an asset and part of their ask for more resources.
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. And that is said building. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, then we'll take that up on Monday for a vote for that item. Item B, refer to the Planning Commission a proposed ordinance to amend subsection 2.02C of the Unified Development Code ordinance to allow museum or art gallery, nonprofit as a principal use in the public or semi-public district. Ms. Littlefield, go ahead.
Yes, sir. As we were looking at the Wynn Building, we noticed that our new UDO chart fails to put museum under the PSP as a principal allowed use, and it probably should be there. Otherwise, it has to remain a grandfathered use after you change the John Wynn Building. If you pass this as well, it can just be a regular allowed use.
And as we had stated when we passed the new UDO, we were sure that we would be doing amendments and changes to it as needed.
We have about 5 more in the works.
There we are. Just another example of how things change. Thank you, Ms. Littlefield. Any question or comment concerning that item? There again, just trying to align everything to prepare for that potential change in ownership. Seeing none, we'll take that up on Monday night with a vote. Item C. Consider a request for plat approval for the purpose of right-of-way dedication for 5.209 acres at North River Road in land lot 172, 173, District 1, Section 5, application by Rooker Riverside LLC. Good evening, sir. How are you this evening?
Good evening, Madam Mayor Robinson and council members. I'd like to introduce myself. It's my first time here. My name is Tyler McSwain. I am the new zoning administrator for the city of Douglasville. So
Welcome.
it's
Hey.
wonderful to be here. Thank you. Thank you. So I'd like to get to this first item here, which is item C, which is a right-of-way dedication, which will not affect the use of the property, but it will be dedicated to GDOT for potential road projects.
Thank you, Mr. McSwain. Welcome.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate you being here. We look forward to working with you. Are there any questions concerning this item? I know that we have information in our packet showing the amount of property involved. And we would take that up on Monday night as a plat approval for that right-of-way dedication. Any questions or comments? Madam Mayor?
No, sir. I'm looking
Council?
at the plate.
Seeing none, we'll take that up on Monday night. Mr. McSwain, thank you so much, sir. Pardon me 1 minute. My screen is not cooperating exactly. I was on item D. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Got it. Consider a request for approval of a development plan for Alliance Tributary for 27.24 acres at Riverside Parkway, located land lot 162, District 1, Section 5, application by Alliance Residential Company, LLC. Is there someone here to speak concerning that application? If so, please come forward. How are you this evening?
Good evening. Hello, Mayor and council members. Julie Sellers here on behalf of the applicant. We have before you a development plan application for approval. This is the similar process that I was here, I think, last month on another project. I do have some handouts just to orient you. It's the same materials that you have in your packet, so if you have them on your screens. But just to set the stage, this is the property that's on Riverside Parkway. It is close to, just to orient you, if you think about the commercial area and the tributary area, this is the adjacent parcel along Riverside. So this is a zoned parcel. We are seeking a site plan approval for multifamily apartments. In the packet, as well as the handout that I have, we've got both the site plan, which shows the layout and configuration of both the internal streets, the parking, the buildings. There are 300 units that are reflected on this plan. You'll see the amenities include a pool, my brain is freezing on me. Not community center, but clubhouse. That's the word I'm looking for that goes with the pool usually. The pool and clubhouse is sort of oriented towards the front of the parcel and also has a dedicated parking area. So if you have folks that are perhaps in the back portion of the community that wanted easier access from a vehicular standpoint, they can get to the pool. Looking through the elevations, you can see it's a mixture of materials that have been presented. We did have an opportunity to take a look at the staff report, which was recommending the approvals of this application, and it looked like the departments had reviewed and did not have any comments. I do know that there's some stream buffer issues on the back of the parcel that are taken into account, and obviously as it goes through permitting, that will all have to be addressed. I am certainly happy to answer any questions. With me, I have Noah Randall, who's with Alliance. And just to touch briefly, and I was remiss in not doing this initially, to let you know who the applicant is. Alliance is a national, one of the largest private U.S. multifamily companies in the United States. So this, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at least 8 communities in the metro Atlanta area, and they have properties all across the country. Happy to answer questions and can certainly go into more detail, but I'm guessing there's probably questions.
Much, Ms. Southers.
Thank you.
Questions of council? Mr. Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going through this very same issue with some apartments that are being designed for New Horizon. And so I don't think that we want to treat you any differently than the way we're beating them up over some of these issues. You're proposing an apartment complex in what is one of the more dense communities within the city of Douglasville, and one that's based on a very traditional design framework. But these don't look anything like that. They really don't seem to. I mean, I think you can make some tweaks to the exterior and kind of get them in line, but my concern more is with the site plan, and you've got a lot of parking in front of the buildings, and that is very much an antithesis to the way Tributary is designed. You've got this also located adjacent, as you point out, to the commercial area, and as I can see from the site plan there, you can even see there's sort of a dead-end street that comes up against your property, which clearly is intended to be, we're trying to promote connectivity. And you have an opportunity to connect into Tributary, but it's totally ignored on this plan. It would seem to make more sense to me if you would just simply take those parking lots and put them behind the buildings. You could actually make a streetscape by keeping the apartments facing the street with a 0 setback, or at least something close to that, or having porches or whatever you want, stoops, and then align that street with the dead end that comes out of Tributary itself. And now you've achieved something that we're trying to get on a grander scale in the city, which is the connectivity aspect. Plus, it allows you to, for potential bike paths that can connect into the sidewalks and so forth. So there's a lot of missed opportunities here, I think, in this plan.
Thank you. I recognize it's not. Do you want me to respond briefly?
Yeah,
okay.
I'm sorry.
I think, and I'll invite Noah to join me because he can certainly speak to this probably better than I can. I do know one of the things that the engineers were looking at is the grade of the property and wanting to work within that, and I think that heavily influenced how they laid out the site, and I'll turn it over to Noah to also address the layout.
Hey, good evening. I'm Noah Randall.
Noah, could you please give us your name and address for the record, sir?
Yes, I'm Noah Randall, 222 Colonial Homes Drive, Atlanta, Georgia.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me this evening. So with this site, the biggest challenge that we've had is, and what's not reflected on this two-dimensional site plan, is it really falls, you have the creek here, the high point's the road, and it's a pretty steep fall all the way down. And so what we've done here, so kind of starting at the road and working back, where the parking lots are is actually about 12 feet below the road. And so we like to have, as much visibility as we can. But for this one, we didn't want to stick a building right up against a wall, which is basically what you've got to do to make up that grade. And so that's really why we separated, we like to have these community centers more centrally located in the community, but the reason that it kind of is put over here is we brought that up to the street level so that you can still see it when you drive by. But if you can kind of imagine, the rest of the community kind of terraces down. And that drove a lot of the parking too. So where you see, for instance, in the second row toward the top of the plan, where you have those double stacked parking, you actually have a break in that parking that goes through that open space where you have a slope, and that's just to allow us to maintain handicap accessibility from those parking lots to those buildings, and to avoid having a condition where you have to actually step the building. And so it's a lot of it has really been an exercise in working with the grade and the restrictions of the site, but still having community that we feel like when you're within the community, you don't have, difficulty, getting around or have some of those accessibility issues that we can run into where we have a lot of topo. As far as, the elevations of the buildings, the first thing we did when we put this site under contract is meet with Steve Ostover over at Tributary. And really the basis of our design has been to be as contextual as we can. I mean, obviously it's a little bit harder to it's tough to make an apartment building look like a house. And so, and I feel like sometimes when we do that, it just looks like somebody's making an apartment building that wants to look like a house. But certainly like with the materials and colors, we did work in gables and things like that where a lot of our development is more urban and in town and tends to have flat roofs and feel more modern. We did really put a lot of thought into trying to be contextual to Tributary. And then as far as this connection on the back, we agree with you. We think there's a future opportunity to do that. Right now, it's tough both from the perspective of the grade, but also right now that shopping center is kind of shut down, and for security reasons, they kind of keep that roped off. And so it's not completely in our power to make that connection, but it was something that we kind of went back and forth on. I do think we're kind of, like I said, put a lot of thought into trying to fit a flat thing on a pretty aggressively sloped thing. But that's really what a lot of that design has been driven by, is the existing topography.
Let me ask you something. I understand your concern with topography. Have you ever been to San Francisco or Pittsburgh or Portland, Maine? It's remarkable what you can do with some dramatic topography if you really think through a design. I understand you're attempting to terrace the property, and I understand your concern with having the parking at the same level as the units, but there's not reason you can't have a second level entry from parking. You just simply reorient the units to accommodate that. So if you look at the way your parking, the width of your double wide parking is about approximately the same width as the units. So there's no reason they can't be flipped, because you have to have a flat level for the parking, you're going to have a flat level for the development. So you can easily flip the units and the parking in several locations. As far as the look is, I understand you don't want them to look like houses, I get that, but there already are apartment buildings in Tributary that you can use that don't look like these, but you can use that as, I think, as the basis of design. As far as the future connection, as far as this city is concerned, the future is now. We want to see connectivity. There's no reason, I understand that there's a security issue and you'd be connecting to a dead commercial center, but that center is going to become alive eventually again. And so why not connect it, provide for the connection that will allow in the future to be for through passage into the commercial center. If I were moving into that apartment, I would love the ability to walk over to that commercial center. All right, now you have to walk across a lawn. That's not a very comfortable experience. So those are just my thoughts on it.
Yeah, no, we agree, and we are happy to provide that stub out to where we're not preventing that connection from happening in the future. So we appreciate your perspective, and happy to answer any other questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
This is my ward, so very sensitive to the impact it has on the local residents. Concerned about the amount of traffic it's going to be adding to the roads. And I'm concerned about visibility from the road. You said you like visibility, but I know the people who live around there and drive past there don't want to be looking at an apartment complex. The one that was just approved next door, almost next door, is set back from the road quite a bit, and it's going to be difficult to see. So I have a concern about that. And it also looks like there's no gate on this entrance, correct?
It wouldn't be drawn on this plan, but
is that the intent, to have a gated entrance?
I would say we like to leave them ungated when we can, but it's,
I'm not suggesting that we should require that. I was just curious what your intent was.
Generally, that's access control is dictated for us mainly by, and most of the time we do it. Like I said, most of our development has been in more urban locations, but we kind of liked the fact that we could have a little bit more openness here, and you don't really have an issue with having a bunch of, I think, unwanted parkers and things like that. But certainly, happy to control access if that's a concern.
Looking at the parking lot that's closest to the Riverside Parkway, you said there was about a 12-foot difference.
Yeah.
So driving by, you're probably not going to see the parking lot, but you'll see the buildings. Are you planning any kind of screening vegetation in between the road and the development?
Yeah, and like I said, on a site plan, we don't have our full landscape plan, but I think one of the interesting things about this, both from your perspective and being on a road with a bunch of houses on it, and then coming upon an apartment that's a lot different than, for instance, the Avonlea development that is down the street, is that this one does the opposite. It falls away from you. So on a quick drive-by, you are going to see our clubhouse, but like you said, these are going to be sunken down, and then we do have I believe that's a 40-foot buffer before we even, or setback really, whatever you want to call it, 40 feet before that parking starts. And we plan to plant vegetation there. It's, for us, Riverside's a pretty busy road, and so for us, we like to have a little bit of disconnect there. Visibility for us, it's really more about people seeing that amenity center than it is about seeing the buildings, because that's where, if you're coming to lease an apartment, that's our retail store. That's where you go first. And so the biggest concern for us is that you have access to that, but it actually kind of gives it a cool feel that when you do get into the property, you're backing up against woods, and you're kind of tucked in there and falling away from the road.
Your residents that are going to be closest to the road, of course, are going to be concerned about the road noise.
Right.
And there is quite a bit out there, so that's why I think the vegetation helps absorb some of that.
Happy
You don't want to see ugly sound walls, though, but...
Right. No. We're happy to plant something that's going to serve as kind of a vertical, both sound and privacy barrier.
And I noticed that the entrance is directly across from the Red Cross, which means the intersection that already has a traffic signal. So that is a good thing. It's been planned for a long time for that road to continue across the street into the neighboring property owner's property. I think that was part of the covenants when he acquired that property. And then to the right of that on our site plan, which is, I guess, would be northeast, that's just blank green space, which helps you with your % of green space coverage, correct? You have no use for that. You're not going to put any ball fields there or anything.
No, nothing.
Hiking trails.
Nothing like that.
I don't know what the topography of that square is, but...
And you're talking about just on the other side of Commerce Way from the
right.
amenity. It's actually pretty high in flat land. Right now, we don't have any plans for that other than we kind of like to control both sides of the road.
Got some hogs and some deer and some other critters over there,
exactly.
Too. And what about fencing around the development?
So, like I said, as far as the way, going back to the topography, we'll have to have fall protection fencing on these walls I'm talking about, where you can't just go and walk off of them. So the site is actually pretty well protected in a natural way, but at the same time, we really don't like to just go and put a perimeter fence around something like this, like on the backside, because there are, you do have Sweetwater Creek back there, and there is this expansive network of trails that just go, all throughout that. So, typically on something like this, we wouldn't want to perimeter fence it and make it kind of feel like you're keeping somebody out or.
I know the property owner back there doesn't like people trespassing, so that's why I'm asking if you don't put up a fence, he might. So, as he has already done on some of his property. I think that's all I have for now, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. Madam Mayor, did you have a comment?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just briefly, thank you, Mr. Randall, for coming, and Ms. Sellers. Just a consideration, again, to reiterate what council members have already said, as far as connectivity, maybe looking at something that would connect to future development, and as well as you talked about Sweetwater Creek Park in the back, if there could be some more amenities just to consider outside of the clubhouse and the pool for that. And a lot of times with gates, when I lived in Maryland, and I, moved from Ohio after college, and when I moved into a gated apartment complex, it made me feel more secure because, you can have singles or whatever moving into an area and you feel exclusive, like you need to have access to get in, and not everyone can come in. So that's just something to consider about a gate. It's not like a penal, you don't feel like you're in a prison. You feel like I'm protected and only the people that live here are able to get in. And so those were a couple of things. And then we met today with some staff, the city manager, transportation director, myself, met Public Works director with GDOT about Riverside Parkway and the speed limit. And so just to bring that to your attention, there is a lot of traffic because there's mixed use there. Keehee, Gordon Foods, American Red Cross, and a lot of residents. And so we're trying to bring the speed down because there are bike trails there, to have that walking and pedestrian and bike usage. But there is a lot of traffic. So if the apartment complex is closer to the road, that may be an impediment, as far as noise is concerned for their quality of life. So those are some of the issues. And the last thing was a detention pond in the back, in this wall. Are there some issues with that, the stream buffers and all of that?
No, ma'am. We specifically really try to stay clear of impacting those at all. It's a pretty big process.
Substantial amount. Okay.
Yeah, to get through that. So it's not our intent to impact that stream, and kind of what Julie touched on before. In the permitting process, we can't get permission to go moving dirt out there until we've got it, adequately silt fenced and protected from impacting that stream during construction. But no, that really the reason you see that wall is to intentionally prevent any kind of, to draw a hard line. You like these things to just be earthen and go that way, but no, we don't want to mess with the streams.
Okay, well, thanks so much. And aesthetically, all of that, I guess we can talk about. You all have some recommendations for materials, and just as long as it kind of looks like the character of the community that's already there, I'm sure it'll be fine. So thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. Is there any other comment or question council may have? Yes, go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
I thought of another one, just to clarify, to point out that unlike the previous apartment complex that we dealt with, this does not involve rezoning.
Correct.
It's just the development plan. Apparently, the zoning is already covered under the original tributary DCD, which is at a much higher density than the last apartment complex we dealt with. Questions about what kind of apartments we're bringing in here, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, how do you expect that's going to spread out?
It's a 50-50 mix of 1s and 2s.
Okay, and market rate, or is it?
Market rate, yes.
Right, okay. Thank you, that's all I have.
And just one note on that, I think it's one of the things that differentiates us from some of our peers. We're a developer, so we do this part, but we're with this project all the way through construction. We're our own general contractor and our own property manager. So we very much have complete control over this process. And in terms of quality, it can be a good and a bad thing to be a big company. I think for us, it's a good thing because it prevents us from working with certain kinds of partners. We work with big institutions, kind of household names, and with that comes a standard of quality, both of the product itself, so that it is institutional quality, and I say institution in the finance context, but also that it's managed to to a standard that, you know, is protecting both our investment as well as our partners. So I think managing a bunch of units, building a bunch of units gives us, I like to think, you know, kind of practice makes perfect on that kind of thing. So anyway, I just wanted to make a note of that.
We'll listen one more time, Mr. Mayor.
I promise this is it.
Thank you.
I'd like to hear about the interior of the apartments and how they're appointed. You know, are we talking granite countertops or Formica?
Yes. Yeah, so actually, so if we want to use the other Avonlea tributary as an example, it'll be a pretty nice upgrade from that. So LVT flooring throughout, which LVT stands for luxury vinyl tile. It's the wood look stuff that you see kind of pervasive throughout apartments and people. It's gotten really good. People like to use it in offices and in their homes and their basements where it can be an advantage to some alternatives. Granite countertops, stainless steel appliances, kind of compared to the coil top black appliances over at Avonlea. This is more like something you would put in kind of an entry level home, glass top stainless steel appliances. So yeah, you know, for us that's kind of non-negotiable, and it is kind of a long-term maintenance thing too. When you go to something that's not a hard surface countertop, and when you go to, you know, carpet, it's more turnover, it gets nasty. So yeah, that's kind of general idea of.
And the central hallways from which people will access their units, those are carpeted or tiled?
Those are in this design, a 3-story design like this, they're open breezeway.
Okay, so it's going to be cement type.
Yeah, it'll be poured cement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll try to
Mr.
think
Mayor
up some
Pro Tem.
more for Monday.
And those would be welcome, no problem at all. We realize this is your ward. First, let me beg your forgiveness, but I cannot remember your last name.
Randall.
Mr. Randall, I just had a couple of questions and a couple of observations as we've gone through this, realizing, of course, this is a development plan rather than a rezoning. That's the reason the discussion that we're having is set up a little differently. I'm going to assume from looking at it, and I have not seen the topo, but I can imagine from what you've described that you are basically tucked in on a downward sloping hillside sloping away from you rather severely. And so you are almost secure because of topo and the fact that you back up to the creek.
Yes, sir.
Therefore, fencing would really benefit no one wanting to come in or trying to get out, because basically you have the views out the back of the apartments over that natural area of Sweetwater Creek and then into that uninhabited and wooded property, correct?
Yes, sir.
So,
well, and it is worth noting, you know, detention ponds, things like that, we have to secure. You know, there's a lot of life safety fencing that just you can't avoid because you can't have, you know, a kid or something like that wandering off.
Sure, there's certain things that you have to do.
Yes, sir.
But the fact that you're located where you are with the topo the way it appears to be from what I see here, I think would almost be self-explanatory that there's no reason for a fence across the back or down the sides because of the topo itself. And basically, if I were riding down Riverside Parkway, I think you've answered this question, but I'll ask again. You would basically not see the parking, the first strip of parking, but you could see some part of the apartment complex itself.
I think you'd be looking, you know, assuming there's not trees there,
Sure.
but just you'd be looking at kind of the second 2 levels of the.
Okay.
So if you take a look at the elevations, that's kind of what you're seeing, but the parking's going to be below you, both. You know, you're going to have a landscape strip there, and then you've got a wall,
Yes,
and
sir.
the parking's going to be kind of tucked down there.
Okay. This question would be for Mr. Corona and Mr. McSwain, possibly. Don't want to put you on the spot, your first meeting here, but have all of the requirements of the development plan as far as city is concerned and staff is concerned after review, or have all of those concerns been met, and are they all above required standards?
Right. Good evening again, Tyler McSwain. To answer your question, sir, yes, they have met all the requirements of the Unified Development Code, and staff has reviewed over and didn't see anything that would be
Just wanted to
hindrance.
make sure that there were no issues that were up in the air that had not been agreed upon in advance, so there's no question as to what was going to be required as a part of the development of the site and the building of the units, if approved.
That's correct. Once again, staff has reviewed over the floodplain area on the site plan and see that they're clear of that, so we don't have any objections to the proposed site plan.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments? Is there anyone in the audience that had a comment concerning this? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll take this up on Monday night. We appreciate your time. Thank you. Okay, we have one other item, and that is hold a public hearing to consider a request for a variance to reduce the requirement for subsection 4.03.01A of the zoning ordinance to reduce the rear yard setback requirement for a lot of .41 acres at 7197 Strickland Street, land lot 192, District 2, Section 5, Parcel 4. Application by Cesar Luna and Melordius Tijahero. Is there someone here to represent that? If so, please come forward. Identify yourself as to your name and address for the record, and we would love to hear from you concerning this.
Hello. Apologize, I'm kind of new on these kind of things. I'm just going to translate for him.
Please speak up. Name and address for the record.
My name is Cesar Luna. I live in,
his address is 7197 West Strickland Street.
Okay. And you are requesting a reduction of a backyard setback.
Yes, that's correct.
And what is the purpose of that request, please?
He's got a building, but it's not. It's kind of small building. It's we call it storage and parking for a car, and it's I think it's like a 3 inches. What the county requires, I think it's a 15 feet, and we got it on 14, 10, something like that. I think it's like 3 or 2 inches where it's supposed to be.
So you are here to request a variance because your property has encroached upon a setback.
Yes.
And the building is already built. Okay. Questions, comments from council?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Madam
Mr.
Mayor.
Chairman, so for clarity, you want to add a garage and a storage room?
Yeah, it's going to be a garage and a storage.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm a little confused. I just asked if this has already been built or if this is a proposed building. Madam Mayor has asked, is this going to be built? I'm questioning, is it already there?
It's already there, but we just
is.
stopped because the measurements.
Oh.
Yeah, we just stopped.
So you were building it, and then they asked you to stop and come in and get permission to continue to build?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Okay, that helps. Anyone else have any question or comment? Mr. Chair? Yes, Mr. Miller.
Is this an enclosed, intended to be an enclosed, conditioned space, or is this just going to an open, like a carport?
Yeah, carport. For right now, it's going to be like a carport, but in the future, we want to get a permit for build a little bedroom on the side and close it. But right now, it's going to be like an open.
Is it attached to another building, or is it freestanding?
It's by itself, yeah.
Freestanding. You already poured a foundation for it?
No, not yet. We stopped.
How far along did you get before you were stopped? How much did you build before you had to stop?
It's got the frame already and the roof.
It appears to me that we're talking about a proposed shop on our drawing, and someone please correct me if I'm wrong. Proposed shop with 14.9 feet away from a rear property line. Can staff help me with the setback on the rear? Is it only 15 feet in that development? I'm looking at page 11 of 11 on the survey, and I'm assuming the building in question is the proposed shop. Mr. McSwain, is that correct?
Tyler McSwain, 6701 Church Street. The rear setback would be 30 feet.
Okay, so the rear setback is 30 feet, and their variance is to reduce that setback to 14.9 feet. Is that correct?
That's correct, an encroachment.
Okay. Now I understand, because it sounded as though we were talking about inches here, and obviously we're talking about feet. Okay. Any other question or comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
So it's a home, it says a house, 7197.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is not residential, this is a business.
This is residential
Residential.
property with an accessory structure.
So they're,
The
so the
accessory
proposed
structure
shop-
that you're proposing is the shop in the rear, in your picture there.
This would be their personal accessory structure, which they're storing.
So it's not
or-
a shop like they're gonna have a mechanic.
No, it's
You're
not a commercial use.
You're
This
not
would
gonna
be
have a
something-
business where you're gonna be fixing cars and have all these cars outside under the port and all that kind of stuff, right? I'm good. Thank you.
Question, comments? All righty.
Council, and
Yes.
I will make a note here by staff. I do apologize, we were having technical issues with the report on our server, but I do want to let you all know that staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request with 2 conditions. And I will read those conditions in the record, since the application and then that report is not
Please do.
available at this time. Okay, staff is recommending approval of the applicant's request with 2 conditions. One, the mentioned garage shall not exceed 1,269 square feet from its original footprint. Condition number 2, if the extensive damage were to occur exceeding 50% damage or demolition of the existing garage, the structure must be rebuilt within its original footprint, and all facade materials must be similar to the materials used on the primary dwelling. And I also make the note that if you wish to make a 3rd condition regarding a mother-in-law suite, that they would have to come in for a special use permit if they were to convert that use to something different other than an accessory structure.
Okay, point taken.
Mr. Chair.
What is the footprint of the shop as it sits now? Is it 1,269 square feet?
According to the applicant's application, yes. That would be
Basically, you're limiting it to not have any additions to it in the future. Should it be destroyed or damaged and have to be rebuilt, it could not be any larger than that next time either.
Correct.
Okay. And your position on a mother-in-law suite, first of all, that's not a mother-in-law suite. It's a separate structure. So yes, I would agree with that, because otherwise you would have a multifamily use in a single-family residential zoning, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and that's the reason for that. Okay. Yes, Madam Mayor, did you have, Mr. Miller?
And one last question. Has there been any comments or concerns expressed by any neighbors, any of the adjacent property owners?
Yes, I can answer that. To the best of my knowledge, there hasn't been any opposition. I believe that the neighbors are aware of the applicant's request, and that they haven't said anything in regards to
They have been
the
notified.
opposition. That's correct.
I'm going to give that opportunity, since it is a public hearing, for there to be comment by anyone else. Okay, anything else that you'd like to add as the applicant? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else that would come to speak in favor of this request for variance? And if not, in opposition of the request, please come forward. Sir, if you'd give us your name and address for the record, and
Right there. Cut that down a little bit. My name is David Rowland. I live at 7235 Myrtle Lane, directly behind, well, across the street from where my neighbor's there. And when he's saying like a garage, it's not a garage. It's where like where he be parking his, his vehicles at. And he got like a couple of vehicles and, like a U-Haul, and they ain't gonna be nothing like closed in and a bunch of air like you're hearing in the garage. Because I would hear it from my house, because I'm not too far from him. And so it's not a garage. It's like, when your dad built his thing, he said, well, I'm putting my boat there, my car here. Then,
like a carport.
Then all that stuff all out in the front.
Yes, sir.
They're making our property look bad. So he got it all in the back, and it's nice. And plus he got an 8-foot fence all the way around it. And it looks very nice. So I'm very highly, glad that it ain't all in your front yard.
I understand. So you're basically speaking in favor of that?
Yes.
Thank you for your comment, sir. Yes, sir. Anyone else?
Thank you, Mr. Rowland.
Any other comment of council? Coach?
I just want to clear up a misunderstanding. Is this going to be an enclosed shop, dried in, or is this going to be open air around like a pole barn or open air carport?
I believe,
It's going to be open.
yeah, it's going carport.
Open
It
all the
shows
way
a
around?
carport.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
like a carport.
Let me, if I may, bring something up, because it's in the application. It says, explain the hardship of the variance, and it says to park trucks inside in order to keep the tools safe. If you're saying that you want to keep tools safe, you're not going to keep them very safely stored in an open carport.
Well,
Am I misunderstanding something?
It's a nice neighborhood. We haven't have problems with somebody stole something, so that's why we're trying to keep it organized on the back.
Keep everything condensed
Yeah.
in one space.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Seeing none, then we'll close the public hearing, and if you all will come back on Monday, we will take action on this item.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Madam Mayor, that's all that we have tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to item 8, which is Parks and Recreation Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no business tonight.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to item 9, which is Finance Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Mark Adams.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have one item tonight under Finance. That's to enact an ordinance and authorize the mayor to sign a participation agreement with the Board of Trustees for the Georgia Municipal Employees Benefits System to allow the city to pre-fund its liabilities for certain post-employment benefits other than pensions, which it offers to city employees. Ms. Karen Callan is going to help us with that, as we discussed in our committee meeting tonight. Please bring us up to date on that, Ms. Callan.
Yes, sir. Karen Callan, 6695 Church Street, Finance Director. Yes, once we set up this trust, we'll be able to appropriate funds into it annually, and over time, it will earn interest. It will be commingled with our GMA retirement pool, so the investments will grow each year, and we will use those to offset health care costs for retirees in the future.
I think it's a good idea. It gives us a place to park those funds and invest those funds in hopes of trying to catch up.
Yes, sir.
With those benefit requirements. Question, comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
I did
Madam
have a quick question.
Sure.
It says the measure is an ordinance to authorize the mayor to sign a participation agreement, and then in the governing authority, it says title of persons authorized to receive official notices, and it doesn't have mayor checked. It has human resource director, city manager, and finance director. So if I'm signing, whether it's me or another mayor, if you're signing the agreement but you can't see if anything changes on it, that doesn't make sense.
We can take a look at that. Susan, do you have any comment on that?
Ms. Littlefield?
Why don't we speak about that after the meeting tonight, if that's possible? Can you stay?
Yes, ma'am. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Because the mayor has a concern about that, I will not request that it be placed on the consent agenda. Okay? Thank you, Ms. Callan. Appreciate it. That's all that we have under Finance, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Information and Technology Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Miller T.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no items under the Information and Technology Committee at this
Thank you,
time.
sir. You're welcome. Maintenance and Sanitation Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Chris Watts.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have 2 items tonight under Maintenance and Sanitation. Item A, authorize the mayor to sign a change order. Number 2, to the city's agreement of October 30th, 2017 with AECom Technical Services, Inc. to add a scope of work for extended contract administration services for the Courthouse Square project. Mr. Roberts will direct us here.
Thank you. Greg Roberts, Director of the Public Services Department for the City of Douglasville. 85, I hadn't said it in a while, 8578 Club Drive, or you can send me email to sanitation@douglasvillega.gov, and we love serving our citizens. And to help us better serve our citizens, we're doing some work to some facilities, as you are aware. And this is a change order number 2 for the Cedar Mountain Road project, where the majority of our maintenance and sanitation staff will be housed along with the equipment on the 65-acre site off of Cedar Mountain Road, north on the north side of the city. This is, this change order here, I just said that incorrectly. I'll save what I just said for the next item. But this is for the Courthouse Square project. For some of us, we know it as the old City Hall building. Some of us in the room know it as the old Detectives building. Somebody that's much older than most of us would know it as the old EMC building from 50 or 60, 70 years ago. But our administrative offices will be moving in there on the corner of Church Street and West Courthouse Square. For most of you on the council, and we have at least one new council member in Ms. Miller, but we had contracted with Ray Lynn as we were bringing on the construction manager. And there were a few things that we picked up on as the construction manager. Miss Amy Tisenchek with CPS picked up on a few things that needed to be added for inspections for the Courthouse Square building, and this is to give us more inspections to meet those demands, and then it helps us pick up on some work that they've already been doing that sort of ate up their time and their hours on the job, if that makes any sense. And the increase in this change order is $30,780, and it'll bring the total of this part of the project, a total end would be $512,470 once everything's said and done. But this is for additional inspections in the building that will have to be done, additional architectural work that will have to be done. When you're working in this old facility, we do find a few things here and there that have to be not only corrected but looked at, and we need their expertise in that area.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Any questions or comments? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I think of that building as the Hawkins Police Department from Stranger Things. So if we keep it there, then I think the younger generation will know what we're talking about.
Absolutely.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem stole my one-liner, so.
I was going to say that too.
You guys are going to have to write more
Ranger
one-liners, so
Things.
you're ready for that.
You got to catch up on season 2.
Season 3.
Three. Season 3 came out like the 4th of July or something. Yep, exactly. And my whole family was watching except for me. But anyway, I watched it later.
That building wasn't in it.
The building wasn't in it.
Okay. Just, I know I heard this correctly, but the $30,780, that's added to the already cost that we
Yes.
pay in AECom, which brings it to that 512.
Yes, sir.
Total. Yes, okay. Anything else? If you'll go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just as a matter of information for the public, that $500,000 or so that we will have spent with them, of course, has covered several projects, many different things that we have been involved with in the planning of all of the uses of the SPLOSH funds. Just want to make sure that, that everyone understands that we haven't spent $500,000 on the planning for the refurbishment of that building for sanitation, right?
That's right.
Correct? Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out.
Sure, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? If it'd be all right, I'd like to add this to the consent agenda for Monday. Thank you. Item B, authorize the mayor to sign change order number 3 to the city's agreement of October 30th, 2017 with AECom Technical Services, Inc. to add a scope of work for a truck wash station for the Cedar Mountain Road project. Mr. Roberts.
So this takes us back to Cedar Mountain Road, where I was trying to jump to earlier. As you also know, during the planning and architectural phases of the Cedar Mountain Road project, initially, the costs came in a lot higher. We all took a gasp of a breath of air, and so we backed up and punted on a few things. And one of the things that got put on the back burner was the wash bay, the commercial truck wash bay. As you know, in recent weeks, it came to council and we discussed that we needed to put that back, and you guys agreed with that. And so what we have Ray Lynn doing is adding the infrastructure in, and there's still some architectural and design and engineering work from AECom to make sure that all of those components are not only meeting our code requirements, but so that once we bring this prefabbed unit in, that everything retrofits and it's engineered to match what the manufacturer is making for us once we approve that. We will have this wash bay as a standalone item in 2 weeks asking for approval of the wash bay. So this sort of is a little bit ahead of it, but this was a needed item here as well.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. Yes, Mayor Robinson.
Is it $28,000? I thought I read that somewhere.
It's a total of $28,280, and they've already done about $5,000 worth of work with the expectation that we'll pay them.
Okay. All right.
But yes.
So this lump sum that we're talking about here, this change order would add to that previous figure and bring it to the $547.50.
That's, yeah, $547.50, yes.
Mr. Adams.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I know that in the essence of time, you all probably don't want to hear these questions from me, but I was just curious to see where we are while we're on that subject. I'm glad to hear that we're able to put that back in as a part of that project, because I know that was one of the concerns when we started talking about moving it to another site that you did not have the possibility of having because of space limitations. Well, we don't have those now, but are we on schedule somewhat as far as the project is concerned, and are we on budget otherwise?
Yes and yes.
Thank you.
We hope to be in the facility around Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Be a nice Thanksgiving gift.
Around Thanksgiving, so it could be a week before or 2 weeks after, but sometime during the holidays, when I'm talking to Santa Claus, he's going to bring us a new facility.
I'd just like to say kudos to staff and to everyone involved on that project. I'm glad to see it underway and almost completed, and we look forward to visiting there very soon for a ribbon cutting, so to speak.
And thanks for the wash bay. I cannot even tell you how important it is.
Okay, any other questions or comments? I'd like to add this to the consent agenda for Monday night. Madam Mayor, this is all we have tonight under maintenance and sanitation. Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll move on to Transportation Committee. The Vice Chair is Councilman Miller T.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have no items under the Transportation Committee at this time.
Thank you, sir. Personnel and Organization Committee, that's chaired by Mayor Pro Tem Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have a couple items. First one is to authorize the mayor to sign a statement of work agreement with ADP Incorporated for Human Resources Services.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. Tia Austin Bean, 6695 Church Street, Human Resources. This item before you is an agreement with ADP for our timekeeping and payroll purposes to add additional HR services so that we can better serve the public and our employees as it relates to an HRIS system. This item also would give us the full gamut of HR services to be in one software system, and as mentioned, we're currently using ADP for our timekeeping and payroll. So this agreement would allow HR to have a software system as well to just improve efficiency, overall how we do business with the public and our employees. So
this will help with a lot of manual reconciliation that's been going on with HR and finance. So
I'm smiling, yes.
Comments or questions from Mayor and Council? Hearing none, if there's no objection, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday. And then my next item is to adopt an ordinance to amend Section 2-247 of the Administration Ordinance and to enact a new Section 11-17 of the Personnel Policies and Procedures Ordinance to provide for delayed termination of insurance benefits and premiums for employees and elected officials and to renumber an existing ordinance section to accommodate the change.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This item, as we discussed in our committee's meeting, relates to how we process our benefits termination and our premiums. We currently are on a process where when an employee or an elected official separates from the city, their benefits and premiums in on the day of, and we would like to amend that to be the first of the month following separation. So it will streamline our processes as far as our benefits reconciliation, and also there will eliminate the need for processing refunds to employees when they separate from the city.
Comments or questions from Mayor and Council? We did discuss this in committee, as Ms. Olson being said.
Mr. Chairman, just a note to the public, just because our employees pay for their benefits, insurance, and so forth in advance, this would just make sense in order for them to be covered through the time that they have paid for. And I think it's a great idea to simplify things.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Good comment. Thank you. All right, hearing nothing else, I'd like to place this on the consent agenda for Monday if there's no objections. That's all we have, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on then from Personnel and Organization Committee to Ordinances and Intergovernmental Committee. And the Vice Chair, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, Richard Siegel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We do have a few items.
Okay.
First is to adopt an ordinance amending City Charter subsection 3.10A to revise the list of appointed employees, and section 6.30 to revise provisions for authorizing contracts. We did already adopt this at our last meeting, but being a charter change requires 2 adoptions. So anything to add to that, Ms. Littlefield?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then we will take that up on Monday. Next is to adopt an ordinance to amend sections 2-8, 2-154, and 2-175 of the administration ordinance to revise contracting authority, job titles, and other matters consistent with the city charter. This presumes that we do adopt for the second time the charter and make the corresponding changes in the administration ordinance. Anything to add to that?
Yes, sir. We talked about this one in committee some weeks ago. It'll implement the changes to the charter.
So then on Monday, assuming we vote yes on the first item, we will get that blue back to sign. We'll recognize it already has our signatures on it, so we'll sign it again. Any comments or questions on this? All right, and then the third item is to appoint an individual to the Douglasville, Douglas County Water and Sewer Authority Board of Directors to fill an unexpired term expiring April 2nd, 2021. We've already interviewed 3 people, and we have 1 more on Monday, correct?
That's correct.
Who are you?
Chelsea Jackson, 6695 Church Street.
Thank you. Anything to add to that?
No, sir.
So we'll have ballots with 4 names on it.
Yes, sir. You have ballots on Monday.
All right, thank you very much. Any comments or questions from Mayor and Council? No, can't put that on the consent agenda since we'll have to vote on Monday. That's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. We'll move on then to item 15, which is Education and Training Committee. That's chaired by Councilmember Samuel Davis.
No items at this time, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Communications Committee, that's chaired by Councilmember Miller T.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's no business under the Communications Committee at this time.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other business to come before council tonight from council members? Thank you. Not seeing any. Then we'll move on to updates from the city staff. Our city attorney, Mr. Dotson.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Chief Assistant City Attorney, Ms. Susan Littlefield.
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, ma'am. The chief was in committees, but he had to do something else. So this is Mr. J.R. Davison Major. We have anything from PD?
No business, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, sir. City Manager, Ms. Marsha Hampton.
Yes, ma'am. Just to remind you all that 30 minutes prior to your meeting, if you want to step over to City Hall, before your meetings, we'll have something for you before the meeting. But it's your choice, no pressure. So that's all.
Thank you so much, City Manager. Staff reports, the Public Services Intern Presentation to the Mayor and Council from Personal and Organization Committee. That was Councilmember.
As you know, we already had 6 interns present their report to us recently, and they're all part of the same program. But we also have another intern that was part of a separate program, and she's going to present to us now. Ms. Champagne, you're not the intern.
Good evening.
No.
Madam Mayor, members of council, I'm Talisha Champagne, Senior HR Journalist, 6695 Church Street. Before I get started, I would like to ask if you would join me in the audience before we begin our presentation. As we begin tonight, I want to first take this opportunity on behalf of our HR director and the entire HR team to again say thank you. Thank you all so much for your vision and your support of our HR programs. And it's always exciting, especially for me, to be able to stand before you just to kind of show you how your support has made such an impact on not just departments throughout the city, but also to our citizens in which we serve here in the city. I have the pleasure tonight of introducing to you Ms. Jemiah Jackson. I have had a short time frame of being able to work with her, but I can tell you that she is a great candidate who came to us as our 2019 intern assigned to our Public Services Department under the umbrella of our Keep Douglasville Beautiful. She is very passionate about what she does, not only in her degree program, but also the things that she's done here in the city. She is a senior assigned to the University of West Georgia, and she is our first intern who has been with us here since May, and tomorrow will be her last day, but the first time that we've actually signed an agreement with one of the universities here. So I'm excited tonight to allow her to present, but before she stands before you, we do have a short video presentation.
I work under Chan Weeks at Keep Douglasville Beautiful with Public Services. I'm a senior at the University of Georgia studying environmental health science. Now originally as a freshman I started off as a chemistry major and that quickly changed. So I shortly after decided to join the College of Public Health and major in environmental health science, and it has allowed me to complete my pharmacy prerequisites in an unconventional way, and I quickly realized that us as individuals can't be truly healthy if our environment isn't healthy. Studying environmental health science has taught me different ways to reduce my footprint here on Earth. One of those things being recycling. I shared with Chan that I was able to convince my roommates to recycle at our apartment in Athens and got them excited about saving the planet as well. That brings me into my next point about my recycling program that I was able to spearhead this summer with increasing recycling amongst city employees and residents of Douglasville. I did some research and found that people are more inclined to recycle when they see what their recycled goods are being turned into. So a water bottle into another water bottle, or an aluminum can into a pair of scissors or a bicycle. So I'm kind of sad because I won't get to see this program come to light, but Chan and Stephanie McFall, the program director, will go and visit Somerset community here in Douglasville and talk to them about what they can and can't recycle, and also give them an opportunity to sign up for curbside recycling bins if they don't already have one. There will also be signs throughout the neighborhood and the pool area displaying what can and can't be recycled, and the idea that I mentioned about what their used goods can be turned into, just so they can have a visual on a daily basis. So I'm excited about this program, but sad because I won't be able to see it. But this is why I chose to intern for local government. Something like recycling starts with us as individuals. So in order to clean our environment, it starts with us. My favorite part about this internship has probably been being able to sit in the Keep Douglasville Beautiful board meetings, being able to see what all Douglasville has to offer, from Taste of Douglasville to the Hydrangea Festival to the 4th of July Parade, and helping with all of those events. And also just being able to come up with new ideas to keep Douglasville beautiful. It has made me proud to be a resident here and to be able to grow up in such a wonderful town. So, being with the City of Douglasville internship program has taught me so many lessons that I will continue to practice today and tomorrow. So, thank you.
It's something about hearing yourself like on a video that's just so cringy. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of council. Again, my name is Jemiah Jackson. I'm a senior at the University of Georgia, go Dogs. And a 2019 intern with Public Services under the Keep Douglasville Beautiful department. So I first want to start off by saying thank you for allowing me the opportunity to intern this summer and giving me the opportunity to utilize my education program and my passion for it, especially as it relates to my recycling initiative, where I was able to drive around in the city where I reside and conduct research, surveys, and implement a program that can ultimately save the environment. So I'm sad that my tenure here is over and I won't get to see this program flourish, but I am extremely grateful that I got the opportunity to spearhead this initiative. As I mentioned in the video, I also enjoyed sitting in the monthly Keep Douglasville Beautiful board meetings. It has given me a sense of professionalism, and as I mentioned, was able to discover all that this beautiful town has to offer, from from the Taste of Douglasville to Food Truck Mondays and the Hydrangea Festival, where I was able to volunteer and speak with local residents and sell tickets and give out information. I can say that I have truly enjoyed every moment of this experience and hope that I can take what I've learned to Athens. So thank you again.
Did you want to take a picture with the intern?
Oh, I'm sorry. I know, we just sat down. We're getting our steps in, we have to take a picture.
Her mama said she wants a picture.
Oh. All right, big smiles, everybody. Beautiful. All right.
It was your committee. I know the council may be perplexed because we did have a presentation from interns a couple of weeks ago, but Ms. Jackson was under another program in that it was signed with the University of Georgia, and she had to complete a program in so many hours for the pharmacy program. So she was brought in under a different umbrella rather than the other intern. She had a longer tenure. She had more time to put in. She had to have so many hours and do a presentation back to the university for consideration for her degree as a senior. So that's why she wasn't with the other, I think, 6 or 8 interns that we had in the other departments. But none the same, she's done a wonderful job, and we appreciate her giving us that presentation. And we're always open for young people, so this is very exciting, and I really appreciate the support from staff and elected officials, as I, of course, copied this internship from the county, but ours is, we're the city of Douglasville. I'll just leave it like that. Okay, we'll move on. So do we have any other staff reports? Okay, now there are comments from citizens and delegates. If you have sustained the meeting and you'd like to come and present to the council, the floor is open. We invite you to come to the podium and give your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes to give us your concerns or comments. Okay, well, I don't see any. Then we'll move on to the next area. It's an executive session. I make a motion to adjourn into executive session for the purpose of discussing property acquisition and potential litigation. Open the floor. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and second to adjourn to executive session for the purpose of discussing property acquisition and potential litigation. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are in adjourning to executive session after a 5-minute recess.